Welcome back to the Naked and Truth podcast, your favorite fitness podcast. I am so grateful to have my client, Kaytlyn Wells, with us. We are going to be going over Kaytlyn's journey and really talk about why she chose Authentically Fit as the right place for her to be able to continue developing the skills that she was looking for, but also to look after her health in a unique way. There is a lot to Kaytlyn's story that is different than I feel than most cases. So, Kaytlyn, welcome to the podcast.
What's up? I'm stoked to be here. I'm stoked to sing your praises. So
Well, we will get straight into it then. And really, what I want to start off with is getting a little bit of back history, right? Like Kaytlyn is a coach herself. She's actually a doctor of physiotherapy. She does run a personal training business on alongside her physiotherapy. So Kaytlyn's already a coach. And a lot of the time when coaches are coaches, it's easy for them to disregard the need for a coach. So I really want to know, where did your journey start in this and where was that deciding factor of saying, "Hey, maybe I could get some support in something"?
yeah. Huh, man, I don't even know where to start. So I guess you know, I guess kind of starting with my background with fitness, I've always been someone who's been very active. My business is literally for lifters. So, like fitness has always been this huge piece of my life ever since I can remember. Like I would sneak out to my dad or, like to the garage and like use my dad's weight machine. I would
Oh,
get in trouble every single time, but I would go and like try to lift as much as I could. And then, I used to weight train with like the boys basketball team and everything like that. So like fitness has always been kind of who I am and like an identity piece for me. So I guess fast forward to COVID, I started working at the hospital as a physical therapist. I started my business. I was doing all the things, and it was right in the middle of COVID. And so, I was doing things like 75 hard. Like I love like the kind of challenge. I love
mm.
like the toughness aspect, which I know I know you know a little too well. Um, and just always liked pushing myself like that. It's just kind of like those little dopamine hits that I would get. And so, I was always someone who was looking for the next challenge and all that. Fast forward, it's probably I think 2021, like around December, I started having some weird symptoms and so started investigating that and it kind of led me to this whole health journey. I got diagnosed with like an autoimmune disease. Basically, they didn't know what the heck was going on. It was just something, right? They
Like
didn't
it
really
always is, right?
right. That's autoimmune is like the trash can diagnosis in
Yeah.
my opinion. It's like we don't know. Here's this term for you. So, I just being who I am and kind of not accepting that I wasn't going to be able to lift the way I wanted to and do all these things. I was still competing in Olympic weightlifting at that time, but I was just noticing like it was just trashing me and realized like my hormones were out of whack and all of these things. I was having all these symptoms. So started investigating it a little bit further. And like I went as crazy as like getting root canals removed. I was, trying like saunas. I was trying all these different supplements. I was getting blood work like every other week. It felt like I tried
You really
ozone
did.
therapy. Like literally, I mean, yeah, you
I
saw
saw the files.
yeah, the files.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I had all this stuff done and I got pretty annoyed because it was just like nobody really knew what was going on. So fast forward even more, what was that last fall, 2024, I guess.
Hmm.
So you and I had collaborated on a client that we'd had together and I had just seen, holy crap, like this is a fitness coach who like actually gives a shit. And there are great fitness coaches out there and there's no knock to them, but I also knew that there's something different about you where it was like, oh wow, like she's really like going the extra mile for this client. Like she doesn't have to hop on with me. We talked probably more than the client and I talked because, you'd had that training history with her and we were trying to figure out what was going on with her and all that. And so, throughout that experience, we kind of started off more as colleagues, professional, and then it quickly kind of turned into more of a friendship. And then it was funny because I started thinking, I was like, man, if I ever hire a coach, it's gonna be Sarah. And around that time you had messaged me about something else and I was like, hey, what about this? Like would you take me on as a client? And so I just seen your passion. We'd had a few talks kind of unrelated to anything. We were just kind of catching up, seeing what's up, and you were talking about like your functional health, the medicine side of things and everything like that. And I was just like, yep, nope, this is who we're gonna go with. So um kind of like you said, sometimes as a coach, it's hard to let go of that control aspect and
Totally.
seek other people. And I was fully convinced like if anyone's going to help me kind of get through these symptoms that I'm feeling and the brain fog, the fatigue, and obviously that on top of a business is hard. So it's like if anyone's going to get me through this, like it's going to be Sarah. And so we joined up and here we are.
And started this journey.
And
Exactly.
started.
Okay, so you mentioned a lot of really good things there, and obviously there was faith that you had in me to get started, which I greatly appreciate because at the end of the day, I know how hard it is to trust people sometimes, right? Especially when you're trusting your finances, you're trusting your health, you're trusting your mental health. Like, just like you said, there are a lot of good coaches out there. There are a lot of not good coaches out there too
Yeah.
that can really wreck you. And I know that from personal experience. I'm sure over the years with your athletic background as well, and even just the multitude of coaches that you've worked with as well, that you're like, and this is where the damage is being done. But hey, it doesn't matter what profession you're in. There's going to be people who are great at what they do, that are good at what they do, and not so good, right? So even though you had a little bit of faith in me, were there any
A lot, but
hesitations? Were there any hesitations that you had when getting started?
I feel like the biggest thing was, I'd been on this health journey trying to find answers for a couple years before we joined forces. And so I feel like I had this like inherent like I'm broken, like nothing's gonna
Mm,
get figured out type of thing. And, a lot of diagnoses had been thrown my way, like POTS and long COVID and I mean, I can't even think of all the others because they're like people were just grasping at straws pretty much.
yeah.
And so I think that was probably my biggest hesitation was like, man, I think it was almost like a self-protective, like if Sarah can't figure it out, probably nobody can. And so I
Mm,
was uh like a little bit worried, I think, in that regard. But then like I did feel like I was broken and that there was something that, like we were just not gonna get figured out. And so I feel like that's really where the hesitancy came from. But again, like I knew that if anyone was going to figure it out, like it would be you. I think we're very similar in that like we're both pretty stubborn when it
mhm.
comes to like client success. And like I know I'll bend over backwards to try to help, get results for my clients. And I know you do too. I saw that firsthand, like I wasn't even paying you. It was literally like we were collaborating on a client that we had had together and I'd seen that firsthand. And so like was just super impressed. So I feel like I got to see more behind the scenes than most
Yeah,
people do
totally.
before I joined up with you. But like that same person, that I saw with that client is the same person that I got as my coach too. So
That makes me so happy to hear. And the thing with Kaytlyn is that, she didn't come to me with a fat loss requirement, right? It was more of a functional health requirement, getting her back to a solid baseline as a business owner. Because when you are a business owner, you wear every hat in the company, and it doesn't matter how you're feeling or what your emotions say, you gotta get things done. And if you don't get shit done, there's not anybody who's filling your place while you're down sick. So I knew with Kaytlyn specifically, like being able to get her to start feeling good was so much more than just feeling good. Like it literally was her whole life, because that's the thing when functional health starts to decline is health overall. We're just starting to lose pieces of us one by one, to the point where, just trying to get on with the capacity of the day can feel so overwhelming that it's normal to feel like, am I ever going to be able to get better, right? Or if you feel like you're constantly in a spot where you are gaining the weight back that you keep losing, and you're never able to find this sustainable spot. Like it's normal to think that things are never going to change, or that there's something wrong with you, or that you're broken. But that doesn't mean that you are. And it really comes down to making sure that you find the right approach. But with that being said, I think the biggest thing that people need sometimes is to just be heard, right? Like, how many specialists did you go to trying to tell the same story over and over again? You're exhausted by that point. You can tell that it's getting to the point where people are just trying to slap a label on it so that they can give you some medication and you're good to go. But from taking out your root canals to, all of the different things that you were doing, there was that distrust building up little bits at a time to now start to believe a story of like, fuck, I'm broken. Like, I don't know if I am actually going to be able to get through this. But luckily, Kaytlyn was not broken. There is a lot of her case that was obviously very unique and very unique to her. And the thing with Kaytlyn's case was that it was a multitude, right? It was not something where it's like you just look at one set of lab work and you're like, okay, this is where we are. It was such a large amount of data that I was looking at once. Like you should see the client notes that I had for her. But what she literally needed was somebody to stop, pull out a piece of paper, and figure out the map that she currently was trying to piece together with her health. But everybody was trying to look at little sections instead of the
Yep.
full picture. And that's where I think it was lost in translation for her. So when
Yep.
we're looking at you actually getting into the program, what do you think met your expectations, maybe exceeded your expectations? You run your own fitness coaching company. So, how did that translate with getting an experience through Authentically Fit?
Yeah. Before I hop into that, I do want to highlight, I think I had probably seen like 8 to 10 different specialists, I
Oh
would
my
say,
gosh. Okay.
right? Because like they'd sent me to like cardiology. I literally had like echoes done. I had ultrasound of my heart done. I had pelvic ultrasounds. Like I was having all these things. I went to get like a genetic lab test done to see like what was
Yeah,
like
we
what
checked out your genes too. Yeah.
my genes. So like legitimately, and honestly, 8 to 10 might even be conservative. Like I might have seen more than that because I was just like constantly searching. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that because I think that that is a very important piece. And like you said, and I think this is why we clicked is that we are very much like let's look at the whole picture even if it
Hmm.
takes me a little bit longer to get this client results. Like there's something missing here, and so let's zoom out so we can zoom in. Like that's something that I say 100 times a day. Let's zoom out so we can zoom in. Like we want to see what's going on. So I definitely appreciate you for that. Now, your actual question. I think for me, I came into it knowing who you were as a person, as a coach. Like we had a lot of like professional like communication back and forth. So like I already kind of knew what I was getting. But I think even then I knew or like I got into your program and one, you opened my mind to things that I was like, man, I don't know about that. But just knowing who you are, trusting you, I was like, what the heck? Let's do it. Like, whatever. Um, so we gave a few like things a shot that I feel like I probably wouldn't have. But the fact that I feel like in a lot of our check-ins, like we talked about fitness a little bit, we talked about functional health a little bit, but we really touched a lot on like the personal side, the stress side, and in no way did I ever feel like I was just a number. Like you really went above and beyond. I mean, shoot, I think there were some check-in like Loom videos that were like probably 25 minutes long, because we had so much to cover, based on my check-in form. So, I think you just going above and beyond. And I don't know if I ever actually told you this, but after getting into your program, there were some things that I was like, I could definitely do that better on my coaching program. So
Oh,
I feel like, not only did you help me with like my health stuff, but you also helped me help my clients more, because I just saw like the way you coached and the boundaries, and like the communication piece, and how you communicated, and the things that you'd had set up in your program. So it definitely was a ripple effect that I don't even know that you know about.
no,
But
I didn't. So what a sweet surprise, though.
yeah.
But that's the best part about working with other professionals, right? And that's where I feel like there's so much that I've learned from you as well, too, right? And
Yeah,
you
don't
don't
accept anyone like Kaytlyn ever again.
shut up. One and done. That's it. One and done.
That's it.
But I genuinely feel like you don't know until you try.
Hmm.
Right? And that's like a lot of what you picked up on the journey. So I just want to say thank you for being open to trying new things because that's the biggest thing is that you don't know until you try. So it might work, it might not, but here's the approach that we're going to take. And that's just how it goes sometimes. Like when you're trying to actually do one-on-one programming with somebody and you are not cookie cutting this program for them, there's going to be back and forth. It's not
Yeah.
going to be perfect right off the bat. There needs to be that feedback of, okay, how is this working? Is it actually working good for your time? Are you seeing the results that you're looking for? Because there's 100 different ways to do the same thing. But then with Kaytlyn's case specifically, there was so many markers in different areas that you needed to make sure that you were going to see the results that you were looking for. And what I'd love for you to do is to go and highlight some of the results, some of the changes that you've seen within the program that really made you excited about your journey.
Yep. So I feel like so I guess I never really went into my full list of symptoms, and to save time I won't, but like brain fog, fatigue, I felt like I would actually get sick if I pushed too hard in the gym.
Hmm. Not
And
recovering on leg days.
yep, leg days would like physically make me sick, and I feel like I would have to just basically call it a day after that. And I like to work out in the mornings, just because that's when I had the most energy. And so, if like I feel like those are just a few of the symptoms, but we really nailed some of those things pretty early on, got those to a point where they were at least more manageable. And I think with anyone who's been dealing with like chronic symptoms, assuming that you're going to be 100%, within a few months, I think is kind of crazy, and like you can't
Hmm.
really expect that all the time. But we put a massive dent in my symptoms, and I think really the plan is the correct plan. I think it's just there's a lot of things at the cellular level that
Hmm.
you and I have talked about that we really need to just give it more time.
Hmm.
And I think with like the plan that you've laid out, like we're gonna get there. But yeah, I think the brain fog, the fatigue, I'm actually able to hit like lower body days. Um, I'm able to push harder than I've pushed in a while.
And
I
multiple lower body days a week, I should
Yep,
say. Where
yep,
back it was only one session that you weren't recovering from, right?
yep, yep. And I haven't told you this either. Man, I just sound like someone who doesn't communicate. I promise. This is
Okay.
this is new information though. But I got an InBody done,
Oh, nice.
and
Okay.
I'm at 15%
Shut
body fat.
up. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay.
But what's crazy is like I am someone who likes to have like a more athletic, leaner physique, but that's not even what we were trying to accomplish. Like that is just purely a side effect of getting healthier at a
Hmm.
cellular level. Like that is just a happy, I don't want to say accident, but like a happy byproduct of,
Hmm.
just trying to get healthy, and really focusing on the things that matter more than just like, can you see my abs or not?
Totally.
So, I think we got the psychological wins. And I think a lot of that came from you just hearing me out and making me feel like I wasn't crazy or losing
Crazy.
my
Yeah.
mind. Because, anybody who's struggled with health stuff without answers for a while, you start to think that it's all in your head. You start to
Hmm.
think that you are batshit crazy. So I think there's that piece. I knew like if I brought something to you, I knew I was gonna have the support. But then also like business wise, I mean, shoot, even before we started recording this, like you called me out on a couple things. Um, but like that's again, like that's how much you care. Like you are willing to have those harder conversations when they're needed. So I feel like my business has changed my outlook on things, and then you go into the actual symptoms that we are trying to work on, and just recovering from leg day,
Yeah.
being able to be more present with my clients, being able to be a little bit more focused during the day, like all those things. If you look at just one of those pieces, like it's a win. But
Hmm.
whenever you really look at all those things, it ends up becoming like a massive domino that really just builds so much momentum behind you. And as a business owner, like that's your favorite word is momentum, right?
Hmm.
Like you just always want to stay in momentum. And so like honestly, all of the results have been huge, and honestly, I can't even wait to see what's going to happen in, the next 3 to 6 months. And something I learned from you is being more appreciative of the present moment. So I am appreciating it, but also still looking forward to all the changes and the growth and everything like that over the next few months.
Which is understandable, right? Like we are impatient people. Nobody likes being stuck in a spot where you feel like you still need some growth, right? But we have been able to make some amazing progress, like you said, physically, mentally, emotionally. A big one that I want to highlight too is, that one period cycle where it was literally the best cycle that you had had in years. No pain, especially when you're going from being in a position where you would eat literally a bottle of Advil at a time, right? Couldn't leave the house, weren't sure if your legs were going to be able to even hold you up standing,
Yeah.
right? And that's the biggest thing that I don't think that people understand with hormones is that they are ever changing. And so you can have a really good cycle, and if you end up having your next cycle be a little bit rougher, well, now we need to look at what that some of those foundation markers. Where did stress come in? Where did inflammation come in? Are you like, is your body properly detoxing through liver, through excreting through urine, through feces? Are you properly absorbing the foods that you're eating? Because with Kaytlyn, there was a ton of food sensitivities, right? We were dealing with SIBO. We were able to bring down some serious swelling of her lower abdomen to a point where she was like, okay, I can take some shirtless selfies here because my abs are popping through so strong. So going from those two spots, like that's an absolute transformation. So, even though there's still growth for Kaytlyn to still make in her health journey, I thought that this episode would be so valuable because I think that so many of us only look at that end goal, right? And we don't allow us to see success unless that end goal is hit. But the funny part is that if we were still at where we were from the beginning, it would sure as shit suck a lot more than where we currently are right now. So we gotta be willing to take that appreciation in and give ourselves some credit for the work that we're putting forwards because at the end of the day, that end goal is never going to be enough anyways. You heard Kaytlyn. She loves doing shit like 75 hard. She's always up for that next challenge. So that end goal is going to end up being pushed to something else. So I always talk to my clients about finding joy in the journey right now because if you don't, you're going to look back in the next 5 to 10 years and simply be in a position where you're like, okay, I just spent the last 5 to 10 years shitting on myself when I really didn't need to. And those are the memories that I get to carry for those core years, right? So I just want to say, great job for being able to trust somebody else and to try some new things and to
Yep.
also realize that this is a journey that's going to take some time too, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to the program in and of itself, like who would you recommend the program to?
Man, I feel like I feel like there's like a wide variety of people that could benefit from working with you. I mean, shoot, like I've referred even some of my own clients over to you. Um, I think obviously the bodybuilding type of person is, I think, what you started with, right? But then now you're transitioning into something even bigger. And, I really think that if there's anyone who's listening that is ready to kind of ditch their old patterns, their old habits, build confidence, build a physique without, like all of the crazy crash diets and, everything like that. Like one of the things that you talk about is like your freedom foods or your freedom meals and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like finding the flexibility and like the healthy lifestyle while also chasing the goals that you want. Like I think if anyone out there is kind of on the fence about that, like you should just reach out to Sarah because, like I honestly think that you could change their life. Anyone who I don't know if I want to do this to you or not, but anyone who's in a health situation like I was, I think going to Sarah and at least just getting her input, I think has been so invaluable. Just because it's like, okay, how can like what are you seeing that maybe I'm not? Like I would consider myself like very well researched. Like I have a doctorate in a medical field.
For
And
sure.
so, like there's a lot of things that I learned in school, but it's hard to see past your own biases and things like that. And so,
Yeah.
I think that alone was invaluable just to have an extra set of eyes on my stuff from like someone who gives a shit. So yeah, really, I feel like anyone could benefit from working with you. It's just a matter of, if they're willing to communicate, put in the work, and really want to level up. And another thing is we didn't touch on, but like the confidence that I feel like I had, like I had never like I was never someone who would like show my body or anything like that. And like I'm freaking wearing shorts. Like it's nuts. And I never wore short like
We love
I'd
it.
I'd say probably for like the last 3 or 4 years I always wore pants, even in the summer. Um so, I think you can really help anyone. It's just a matter of, if they fit what you want to do.
Aw, well, I really appreciate that. And from all of us on the podcast, wear the damn shorts. Let those
Hey,
hammies play, okay?
let's go.
Let's go. So, the last thing that I just want to ask you is what is one thing that you learned with AF Nation that you're going to carry on with you forever?
how, how do you just pick one thing?
What's the first thing that popped to your mind?
Honestly, it's crazy because it's not even like the the fitness or nutrition aspect.
That's okay.
But I feel like just like that self-compassion is something that I feel like was he kind of beat me over the head with that a little bit. So how could I forget that? But no, we talked off air too about just how expansive like health is, how fulfillment is, and everything like that. And I think, there's so many components and so many layers to it, but a lot of it comes from like that introspection and like the self compassion, the self love, and the self talk and
Hmm.
everything like that. So
Hmm.
I think, you can have the best fitness routine in the world, you can have the most dialed in nutrition macros whatever, but until you really start to get that psychological piece, I don't know that the best programs in the world would even get you the results that you're chasing if you don't have that foundational piece. So
I love that. And you know what? It just goes along with like one of my biggest mission statements is that it's not that you don't know how to eat or you don't know how to move your body. It's that you've been through some really hard shit in your life and now you gotten to a point where you don't really love yourself anymore and you don't know how to carry on. And that comes from a lot of different angles depending on the person because we're all unique in our journey. And you can be somebody like Kaytlyn who pushes yourself really hard, smashes 75 hard like it's nothing. But if that psychological piece isn't there and you're not able to see the progress that you're making, it's all not worth it. It's all never good enough, right?
yeah.
So you can look at that from so many different standpoints. But I just want to thank you so much for your time, Kaytlyn. I know that people are going to find a lot of value in this episode and that they're going to love following along with your journey too. So drop what your Instagram account is, and I'll make sure to tag it in the description below.
Yep, it's at Beyond Recovery PRS. So that's my business account. That's really the only one I'm active on. So I post my workouts, I post, all kinds of businessy things. But yeah, would love to connect. And honestly, if anybody has any questions about Sarah, let me know and I'll give you all the details.
Well, you are so much appreciated. And so I just want to thank you, listeners, for tuning in to today's episode. This is going to end this one, and I will catch you on the next one.